Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, tracking the East African community integration process. What factors are hampering Ugandan women from fully engaging in the lucrative regional trade? Regional trade has become one of the key benefits of integration in the East African community, becoming a major source of income for individuals, but also member states whose economies are largely driven by trade. Economists have indicated that the recent troubles noted in the Ugandan economy would have been worse had Uganda ignored regional or cross-border trade. Available statistics show that women form the biggest portion of people engaged in cross-border trade. When the East African community was revived, leaders committed themselves to addressing bottlenecks that hamper regional trade and also put in place policies that would stop any form of discrimination or hindrance. As such, the East African Community Common Market Protocol was born to deal with challenges that were hampering free movement of goods and services. The East African community is also working on other policies, including a common currency and a common tax regime. Other factors that have blocked trade in the region have included insecurity, noting what is currently happening in the DRC, and several complaints registered by Ugandan traders involved in the South Sudan trade route. Three organizations, the East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women, the Ugandan Export Promotions Board, and the Association of Cross-Border Traders have carried out studies highlighting these trouble spots. These findings and recommendations will form the basis of our discussion on Spectrum. Tonight, our guests, Ms. Christine Nankubuge, Programs Director at the East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women, also known as EAC. You're most welcome, Madam Nankubuge.
Thank you, and good evening.
We're also joined by Mr. Godfrey Oundo, Chairman of the Uganda Cross-Border Traders Association. You're most welcome, Mr. Oundo.
Thank you. You're welcome to this show.
Yes, and Mr. Stephen Jita, Director Market and Product Development at the Uganda Export Promotions Board. You're most welcome, Mr. Jita.
Thank you, and good evening, listeners.
Mr. Oundo, could you tell us to what extent women are involved in cross-border trade?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Presenter. Yeah, I first of all thank the efforts of the studio and the radio for these efforts to enlighten our listeners outside there on the challenges women get in cross-border trade. In fact, the list is enumerate and very long, but I will basically handle the key factors which really hamper trade in the region. Our women, like you have heard, are the majority who make the biggest basis of cross-border trade in this country. Statistics has it that 65% of women are involved in formal cross-border trade. And much as there are many in number, they have challenges affecting them on board. And these are challenges these organizations tonight, which are in the studio, are trying to address and ensure that they really have the plight of women in trade. I will enumerate a number of them, and the listeners outside there feel free to understand what is affecting us and really help us where possible to address these challenges. One, we have the culture and perception of men in regard to women in line of business. What am I trying to say here is the feeling of men about women in trade. What do they feel? They feel women are inferior sex. They are not supposed to go out and trade freely. So, and the culture that a woman is supposed to look at, the Muslim culture. A woman is not supposed to be outside in the public life. And that kind of feeling, men grow up and go with it in business world. And this hampers trade. They feel if a woman also goes out to work, why should he? And this has been a hindered progress of trade. Second issue I will illustrate is it is in this century that women are coming on board to have education levels, but illiteracy has affected the women most especially, and it is at this time that women are are coming on board to get education, and previously people used to think that when you don't have what to do, that's when you go to trade. And the illiteracy level, majority of the women, as illustrated in the trade itself, you find that the majority of them are dropped out of schools. They have left school for one reason or the other, fees and the others, and they have found themselves they want to earn a living. And through this, they have been able to not be able to do business well, and the illiteracy has hampered the whole activity, and you find that it has affected them, because majority of men who have learned to do formal trade, they know how to clear the papers and so forth, and women are affected by this. The second issue I want to talk about is the porous nature of our borders at the border points. You'll find that we have the nature of our border points. We have a few borders like Busia, Bibia, which have so many inlets and outlets, to mention just among others. And through their porous nature, and because women, because of their illiteracy nature, they fear going through the formal routes. They end up going through the inferior and the unrecognized routes. By so doing, what has happened is they become prey to so many activities in these illegal exits and entries. They become scrupulous to these masquerading people who call themselves police bandiers, these people who pretend they are government officials, and at the end of the day they end up getting money out of these people, and these people end up bribing, and these are the sort of activities these people are challenged when they go through these illicit border entries. This hampers trade, and somebody, you will find that he's paying a lot of money to go through a border point, and actually the item this person is trading on is a right for this person to trade on, and this has hampered the trade at our border points in this country. And there is lack of information on the market. Recently, I was confronted by a trader. He has produced a lot of items, onions for example. He wants where to sell, but there's lack of, he doesn't have the knowledge of the market. And this is why these civil society organizations which are here and the government is putting efforts on trade information desks at border points and resource centers to avail information to women and to traders in general about the market and where market can be found. And we have a problem of the government infrastructures at borders is really wanting. You will find that the traders who are dealing in items which require sanitary and photosanitary services, they have to carry to laboratory equipment here in Kampala, where at Madam Ministries, where they have to test some particular items before they return the species to the border. You find that a trader is staying with an item at the border point for 2-3 days before he comes, because the sample has come to be tested in Kampala. Why can't we, government, have these facilities at the border? These facilities at the border to ease the services at the border.
We'll get deeper into those points as we go along. Christine, talk to us about what can be done to help things there.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, actually, I would like to talk more about EAC. EAC is the Eastern African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women, and we work in 8 countries. Beyond the 5 countries, the East African countries, we also work in Ethiopia, Somalia, and Eritrea. And basically, I should say, we have been following the regional integration process, and we realized that much as we had these protocols in place, but then we realized there was a gap in regard to women issues within the region. And since 2008, EAC has been pushing for a protocol, or working on a gender equality protocol. We have been working with several partners. We've also signed a memorandum of understanding working with the East African community so that we can give that technical support to mainstream gender within the EAC integration. However, we are still pursuing the protocol on gender equality, and that protocol brings together all the other international human rights instruments that our states have signed to. So we bring it, we want to have one legally binding document. And when you look at this protocol, actually, trade or poverty eradication is one of the things that also we are pointing out. And beyond trade, there is an interrelationship, because actually, just like Mr. Oundo has mentioned, these challenges. So one of the ways that we think that these challenges can be addressed is by having a legally binding document, legal framework, so that we can hold accountable our governments within the region, and every at that time we can remind them. And all this actually is related to the customs union, and actually we are also doing a deeper analysis, and we have done it actually, of the different protocols like the customs union, the common market protocol, to look at what opportunities are there for women and which gaps are there. And so far we've moved into simplifying the protocols and specifically pointing out the opportunities for women and the challenges, and coming up with recommendations on that. And then actually another thing, like Mr. Oundo mentioned, the issue of information. And this kind of information actually is not easily available to everybody, and more especially the women, given their low levels of education. We have simplified several instruments, several documents, but just like Mr. Oundo mentioned, we have resource centers at different border points, whereby actually women, especially our niche is on informal women traders, because we know they form the majority of the cross-border traders. So like our emphasis together with our partners, because actually like I mentioned some of the partners, and why we are here today with the Uganda Export Promotions Board, with Uganda Chamber of Commerce, with the Uganda National Cross-Border Traders Association. We work together with them, and actually we have merged the resource centers so that we can form a one-stop kind of center for women to get this kind of information. And it's not only getting the information, but we have officers in there who help them to fill in the forms, to make, even to provide, actually to fill in the forms, to give them information, interpretation, and all that. And then maybe also another issue, well, Mr. Oundo mentioned about the panyas, the harassment that women go through, even the exploitation. Sometimes it's not through those other routes that they try, even through the official, because we have interacted with these women, they've told us the official routes, because maybe the women don't understand, or they are lacking some documents. So actually, we have tried as much as possible to interface with the different stakeholders, like the police, Ministry of Internal Affairs, so that we can really bring it to their attention that actually, they need to help these women, because they are contributing to the socio-economic status or development of the region. And also some other interventions actually beyond the information. We are also training the women, building their capacity, and how can they actually improve their businesses, how can they get registered. And another thing also, we are facilitating them to form associations. Of recent, we facilitated them to form the Uganda National Association of Women Cross-Border Traders. Within the National Association, but again, women, how can they voice their issues? How can they sit as women to bring all these issues, the harassment, the negligence, and all the challenges that they're experiencing? So we are facilitating them to have one voice. And it is at this opportunity, it's at this time also that I take the opportunity to thank development partners like Trademark, who are actually supporting our work, and also DFID. Then CIDA, we have been working in collaboration with them. They've provided technical support, they've provided financial support. So I should say briefly, those are some of the things that we are doing together with our stakeholders, but there are several of them. But as we move on, we shall be able to.
All right.
Yes.
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum Radio, and tonight, tracking the East African community integration process. What factors are hampering Ugandan women from fully engaging in the lucrative regional trade? Our guest tonight, Ms. Christine Nankubuge, Programs Director at the East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women, also known as EAC, Mr. Godfrey Oundo, Chairman of the Uganda Cross-Border Traders Association, and Mr. Stephen Jita, Director of Market and Product Development at the Uganda Export Promotions Board. You will be able to contribute to this discussion later. Mr. Stephen Jita, what can governments do to help government and government agencies?
Thank you, Raymond. And
Edmond.
thank you, Edmond. What can governments do? One is work with partners like we're already doing in this cause to make trade, especially for these women and men who are involved in the informal cross-border trade, to make it easier for them to go through the formal routes, to enjoy the benefits that come with formal trade. Now, it's very interesting that if you look at the data and statistics of informal cross-border trade, or cross-border trade in particular, you'd find that the people involved in these kinds of trade are trading in activities that actually call for no duty, because we've gone into the East African Common Market and a number of these products have zero duty. When you're taking beans to Kenya, you shouldn't be any taxes on that, any duties on that. You're taking millet to Kenya, you won't be required to pay duty on that. But there is a lack of information. And because of this lack of information, a number of these people think if I go through the formal cross-border crossing, gazetted crossing points, the URA or the customs officials are going to ask me for duty. So the best thing for me to do is to just fly through the Panya route or put it on a bicycle on my back, cross the River Malaba and get onto the Kenyan side. In so doing, they face so many challenges like my colleagues have already mentioned. But now here is what we're trying to do. We're trying to take the service, especially of information dissemination, closer to the people, to give them the benefits of going through the formal routes. Very simple, have people who are trained, who are easily accessible. I could give you an example of, for instance, Malaba, even Busia and elsewhere where these activities or these projects are being implemented today. You find a trained person from amongst themselves whom they are so comfortable dealing with, who is whose capacity has been built in filling out these simple customs declarations, simplified certificate of origin and an invoice. So a woman X Nafuna comes with a millet, finds a colleague that they can speak their language quite comfortably with, fills out the form on their behalf and takes it to the customs official who enters the declaration, and the woman is through the border as seamlessly as that.
At what level do they start? But for if you're taking how many kilos?
Okay.
10 kilos of beans?
Now, the Council of Ministers of the East African Common Market sat and raised the bar to about $2,000. Any goods that are $2,000 below, you do not have to come and get a certificate of origin from Uganda Export Promotion.
$2,000. If you're really taking beans worth less than 5 million shillings,
Absolutely.
no document.
No, you don't have to come and get a certificate of origin from Uganda Export Promotion Board and that kind of thing. What you need to do now is simply go to the border and fill out a simplified certificate of origin and do a declaration. Okay? And that is it. And you're through the border. It's as seamless as that. And most of these things don't actually call for any duties. Okay? But because there is this general lack of information, people would fear. In fact, you will find before they raised this bar, you would find people with truckloads of maize and beans. But because they don't want to go through the hassle of the documentation and what have you, he will park his truck about 5 kilometers away, offload it and send a sack at a time on people's backs. Okay? Now when they saw that, the essence of opening up and going into this common market is actually to enhance trade, the Council of Ministers was wise enough to say, okay, let's raise the bar and say this simplified trade regime, or the ability capacity for people to have simplified trade across the border should be raised to about $2,000.
That's about 5 million Uganda shillings.
Now, most of our women actually fall
far below that.
Far below or in that category. And that category gives them an elastic kind of gap in which to work. So they can grow from 1 sack of maize to 2 sacks, 3 sacks, 4 sacks. So by the time they get to 5 million shillings, their capacity has grown. And even their capacity in terms of filling out these documents and declarations, because now you may be aware that URA has even gone into E. Okay, so you can sit in the comforts of your office and make these declarations online. So we hope that we will get there. But there is a lot of beauty and power in associations. That's why you see the models that we're trying to promote now is bring these women together into associations. So if she knows one thing, she gets into an association and these people meet regularly and they can pass this information over and train themselves. And stakeholders like ourselves, URA, EAC, COMESA can find them in groups and continue equipping them with skills and knowledge to make their trade a little bit more better and seamless.
All right, maybe you will get to know a little bit more about Chris and about these associations and how far you've gone to, in developing them at some stage. But first of all, Godfrey, can you talk to us about what you think local governments can do, the people at the border, people with power down there?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm very grateful so far with the efforts of government, both at the central and the local level. One, they're identifying the places which they are donating to traders as border markets. This has been eminent in southern Sudan with the Uganda border, where land was donated, and recently the Minister of Trade was there to commission this place as a border market. What we are trying to do is to ease trade for these traders, so that they can trade very easily and comfortably. And also, we also try to avoid scenarios where you find traders from our neighboring countries cross into our country and go into interior of our country. By so doing, they are avoiding middlemen who are involved into the trade somewhere by denying them opportunity to trade, because you will find that a product like maize has a lot of chain for it to reach the market finally. So when we place a border market, for example, at the border areas, we are creating a scenario where these traders from neighboring countries come in this place, have a unified place. We are even encouraging institutions like banks, forex bureaus, come and put these services near us, so that our traders can access commodities very easily with comfort and in a centralized place. I'm grateful for government. They are thinking. Busia and Malaba were recently there with the team from the ministry. Local governments have donated the land, although the land is not all very viable. The places where the land is defeats the purpose, but I know this is one of the efforts local governments are doing to support the venture. The other aspect I would also want to address is storage facilities.
Yes.
You know, most of the items traded, especially cereals and the perishables, the fresh fish, the fruits, etc. Some of these items really need to have a place where we can first preserve and keep them, add some bit of flavor on them to have them exported outside our country. So I'm grateful for one organization, UNICEF. In Busia, it has helped to build some storage facility for the traders. UNICEF. Yeah. Yes, they have built some facilities for the traders there to have all the cereals first stored there.
Is it a big warehouse?
It's a big warehouse, although it's not to the capacity we expect, because Busia is one of the border areas which exports cereals too much out of this country. Okay. So at least there is efforts, and we really look outside there for development partners to
come and do the kind of thing. All right, we're going for a break. We'll be back to stay tuned to Spectrum.
Yeah.
Myaka tano bedunga tetuli baddu so unbelievable na yatenga bya ddala tekibadde ise yadde nakamu
Kagenda wagulu bulaka tuli beautiful. Yero wakasala kafenga kasufu ready brotherhood. Eyatero wetugata.
Tuchakale with Airtel today and celebrate 50 years of independence. Get up to 100% bonus to call across all networks. That's not all. Stand a chance to win a motorbike daily and a car every week. Simply top up every day. Get up to 100% bonus. Dial *162#. Press yes or OK. Start the 50 years independence celebration of Uganda today with Tuchakale from Airtel.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight, tracking the East African community integration process. What factors are hampering Ugandan women from fully engaging in the lucrative regional trade? Our guest tonight, Ms. Christine Nankubuge, Programs Director of the East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women, or EAC, Mr. Godfrey Oundo, Chairman of the Uganda Cross-Border Traders Association, and Mr. Stephen Jita, Director, Market and Product Development at the Uganda Export Promotions Board. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Madam Nankubuge, talk to us about this. How far have you gone in creating these associations for women at the border points, the different border points?
Thank you very much. And maybe before I even talk about the associations, how far we've gone in establishing them or supporting them, I'd like to point out another issue which actually has not really come out, or one of the challenges or other challenges that women cross-border traders face. It is about harassment, and specifically sexual harassment. We have shared with them. They have told us their experiences. They are taken advantage of by different people at the border. So this is something actually, and some of them have actually fallen into traps, and some of them have actually maybe even contracted sexually transmitted diseases.
Is it a widespread thing?
It is a widespread thing, because even when you read about other areas beyond the East African community, but then also within South Africa, within the Comesa region, though it is a silent one, given the stigma that goes with sexual harassment or rape, most women decide or prefer to keep quiet, and most times they are coerced into it. And the fact that they have to work during late in the night, that is also another thing. Some of them are actually raped by even any gang groups, but then even officials would coerce them. We had an experience of one of our women traders, and this is really an elder woman, but then she was sharing with us that one time one of the officers was really coercing her, and just shortly she realized, actually it's unfortunate to say, but the gentleman passed away, and so it is a common thing. It happens, and like Mr. Oundo said, most of actually the challenges that women are facing is because of culture and the way everybody perceives you. Immediately somebody looks at a woman, they look at them as a sexual object. So even within trade, the next thing is like there will be those advances. So it is something we shouldn't keep quiet about, because it has happened and we know it is happening, though people are not coming out. And actually, us as a EAC, we are really making sure that we bring these women together and we advocate and bring out those issues that really are not usually talked about, but they are happening and they have a big impact throughout, socially, economically, health-wise. So that is also another issue. But going back to the point, First and foremost, I should say that we are at several border points in Uganda. We are in Katuna, and within Katuna,
that's Rwanda.
Yeah, that is between Rwanda and Uganda. There are several small women's groups or associations, and together with the Export Promotions Board, with the National Cross-Border Trade Associations, Chamber of Commerce, we have tried to bring these women together and under one umbrella. So I should say, much as there are others, but then we are trying, actually we have Katuna Women's Cross-Border Traders Association, then we have in Mutukula women, that is Tanzania border between Uganda and Tanzania. Then also in Busia, we've brought the women together into associations. And then of recent, actually, also we formed a Uganda National Association for Women Cross-Border Traders, and this involved actually more women from Bibia. I should say it is Bibia Women's Cross-Border Associations, now that is with Sudan, then Bunagana and Ishasha. And these are representing, because we thought we can start with those, the key border points in Uganda, then form a national association. We have moved on, and last week actually we had a training. We brought together cross-border women traders in Kenya through our networks. We trained, and they are in the process of harmonizing. Like I have said, actually there are several other groups, but then basically also, but we have been working more specifically at the border between Kenya and Tanzania, that's at Namanga. But now we are also facilitating them to come up with a national association, and this is going to happen in all the 5 partner states. And at the end of the day, we are working towards forming a regional association for women cross-border traders, so that they can have a formidable voice and they can be also recognized. Because because that's why actually when you look at informal cross-border trade, it is usually unrecognized. And if you're not recognized, who is going to listen to you and your issues? So we want to move beyond the border point associations to national level associations, then to regional. And indeed, we are within the mandate, within the mandate of the treaty that established the common markets and the East African, actually the EAC, the treaty that established the East African community, because it provides for participation of the citizens. And we know women actually form over 50% of the 130 million people within the region. So, and we are also using several legal instruments, like you have mentioned, the customs union, the common market, and several articles. And actually also the heads of states recognized the role that women play in economic empowerment, in development, and there is no way we can have a sustainable regional integration without women's participation. Whether educated, whether not educated, it is their right. And that is what actually we push for.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Oundo, could you take what are the benefits of these resource centers? Give us a synopsis of what kind of format they would take and exactly how they would operate.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, before I even answer the benefits, I'm just very grateful for the government and civil society organization for thinking in this direction, because you will realize that one of the benefits these resource centers or trade information desk has yielded for this country is more business now moving from informal to formal. And this in itself is a benefit, because what we are trying to fight and what government is trying to fight is to avoid informal. And like a question has put it, informal is illegal, and we are trying to fight to do business illegally. And because business done illegally is not captured under statistics, the government is capturing under the government organs like revenue authority. So this is why we are trying to make informal to become formal. And the basics of these trade information desk and resource centers as borders: one, they avail knowledge on trade. women interact with the resource center, they feel free and comfortable to move into the resource centers, trade information desk, and get information on trade, where market is existing, and at what item is being bought, at what price, and where can the item be sold. This is a vital information for them. And the government has gone ahead. We are now, the government is trying to come up with what we call common list, which common list is being agreed among member states trading. And once these common lists are signed bilateral by government in member states, this information shall be at these resource centers or trade information desks. And a trader will feel more comfortable to go to the resource center or trade information desk to get to know which item he or she can trade in than going to revenue authority. They have that feeling of harassment, like Christina has put it. So they really avoid going to to government agencies at borders. The other information which these resource centers avail is they help, like we have mentioned, that majority of traders are illiterate, whether male or female. They avail the information on how these traders can really cross with the item, which item they can trade on, and even help them to fill the certificate of origins which are at DC border points, like Mr. Gita put it. Initially, the certificate of origins were at Uganda Export Promotion Board, where traders could either get them. But now government has done a great deal to have this certificates of origins at border points. So we have requested these traders. What we only lacking out is enough facilitation to sensitize all the traders to know that this certificate of origins can be got at the border points and resource centers, so that they can easily get. But the few who are reaching the resource centers, they are able to get this information and they can use the certificates of origin. And also, we are trying to empower these traders to know their rights, because some of them don't know. That's why they are still going illegal, informal, because he knows, he still thinks a trader in today's century still thinks that when he trades his maize across the border, he will be taxed, and these items are not taxed. So we are empowering them to know what are signed in the protocols at the EAC, at the commercial level, so that they empower somebody with knowledge. You're empowering him with the wealth, and this is what these resource centers are doing. Right. To empower these people to know what to trade in and how to trade. Basically, I could answer that.
All right, Stephen, could you talk to us about who else can help? What kind of change agents can we look to?
Well, we have a number of partners that have started picking interest in cross-border trade. International Trade Center, they've already talked about the trademark, and very many others. However, talking about who else can help, I think, the common market protocol, or the opening up of the borders to say we can trade easily, is a very good opportunity that many Ugandans should take advantage of, even without asking people to help. Now, what governments have done is, for instance, we have what we would call one-stop points at the borders, where you would have the Kenyan customs people and the Ugandan customs people sitting together in the same roof, same office. So it's very simple these days to do trade across the border, much simpler than it was those days, where you would cross, then when you get to the Ugandan or Kenyan side, you find the other customs people have probably gone for dinner or something like that, and you have to wait. This time it's a little bit easier. Some of the borders have actually taken on 24-hour service. So that means you can actually trade, sell your beans across the border, and if the customer asks for a repeat order to serve clients the next day, you can cross the border at night. So these are things that I think are very helpful for us. And the other thing is, we do a lot of market research for our traders now. And the market research is showing that we have a lot of demand for the products that we produce locally here in Uganda, especially the agricultural products, even the manufactured and value-added products. Plenty of market. The challenge we have sometimes is the supply. people run out of what to supply. The demand outstrips the supply. But the common market is like an invitation to a dinner, where someone will throw a party and offer invitation cards. But this dinner has some requirements. For instance, you must have what we call an invitation card to this dinner. Yes. Those are standards. Right. Standards. You won't walk into this dinner dressed shabbily.
They'll turn you away.
They'll turn you away.
Even though you have a card.
Absolutely. So much as we've opened, governments have opened up their borders, you must also pay very keen attention to the standards. You're not going to take millet, which has lots of stones and sand in it, because you want to increase the weight of your tonnage, yes, or your volumes of your goods, and you think you're just going to take that across the border. People are going to look at standards. The Kenyans will be very keen on that. The Rwandese will be keen on that. The Tanzanians are very keen on standards as well. So as you're taking these products across, please ensure that you kind of comply with the set standards. And these are some of the services that we now want to channel through these resource centers and the cross-border traders associations.
So people know what to do.
So people know what to do.
What goods may not be traded in?
Of course,
arms.
You may not sell guns. Everything but arms.
Everything, like it is in the
maybe just.
Would you sell alcohol, tobacco, and other things?
We trade in alcohol. We have Ugandan beers crossing the borders.
So with the midnight run, you can run a bar across the border?
Absolutely, but not all goods are duty-free.
When the customers run, the stocks run out and the customers still thirsty at 3 a.m., you can cross the border and restock.
Yes, but not all goods are duty-free. Some goods are restricted. Some goods require permits. I could give you an example of wood. You're not going to cut down any tree or timber and put it on a truck.
They'll ask you where you got it from.
Absolutely, because we want to conserve our forests. You're not going to take charcoal and have about trailer loads of charcoal and think
you asked who else could be of importance in actually promoting cross-border trade, and more especially the women. I should say financial institutions like banks are MFIs, because for instance, when you look at one of the challenges why women cannot even, maybe what we are talking about, cross from being informal to formal, it is the small capital that they do have. So actually we have contacted several financing institutions like banks, for instance, DFCU here in Uganda, under their Women in Business program. And actually I'm glad to say, and I would like to appreciate, of recent they came in and trained our women, told them about the facilities, the different packages that they have, and at least women went back. But the whole challenge was like, you are not at our border points, and we are discussing with DFCU to see how actually these women can access those services and open up. So financial institutions are very key in this, because the whole thing is about money.
Let's hear from the listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight, tracking the East African community integration process. What factors are hampering Ugandan women from fully engaging in the lucrative regional trade? You can call in. Our numbers 0414 348 111, 0312 260 390, 0312 261 390. Spectrum, hello. I'll ask you to switch off your radio or walk away from it as you speak to us. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir, your name?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir, your name?
Sorry, I have had a bigger part of that discussion and I stepped out of it.
Your name, my friend?
The discussion where I hear you saying that we are looking at development partners, excuse me, which development partner can make you develop your own capacity to have enough muscle to trade and be competitive. And the warehouses I hear you talking about, absolutely of no use. I hope you know that warehouses, you pay money to put it.
Interesting views from that side. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Yes, sir, your name?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, your name?
Evening, Kapin is my name.
Yes, Stephen. Let's get back to Spectrum, hello? Okay, let's get back to the studio. Christine, Madam Christine.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the callers and for the views, sharing their views with us. And maybe the first one, I didn't get his name right.
He didn't give us his name, but he was coming from Accra.
Well, much as he said that he finds the discussion a little bit misleading and, but I thank him for one thing is that he acknowledges there is need to for information, giving information to people about the customs union, the common market, and because actually this information is lacking among the people, more especially the women, I should say, and it is a fact actually, though he is trying to, to say it is not. But then this, in reality, on the ground, this information is not there. And we are talking to the people and we are bringing out the challenges that women experience. And then also he is saying that no development partner is going to support the integration and all that. Well, they are already supporting this process, we know, but several, I will not mention them by name. But then, well, it is a reality that we have to accept that there are these challenges and they are more severe when it comes to the women. Well, like he says, he does not accept that women are illiterate, but this is a reality. Either they are semi-illiterate, but then also the culture goes back. Most times, actually, I would say maybe a radio. How many people access the radio? And given the gender roles, actually, you find that unless maybe someone is driving the car, but usually even myself, I should say, when I get home, I have to put several things in order. So like, unlike maybe someone who would find time, or my gender roles will require that either I first run up and down within the house and I might miss on some information. But now we are looking at this woman, a simple woman at the border, who they have several challenges. Maybe I'll ask my colleagues to come in and...
All right, Stephen.
Sure, and thank you, listeners, for the questions and comments. Additionally, yes, we're not saying all women are illiterate, no. We're saying a number of women who are involved in informal
statistically more women.
in informal cross-border trade may not necessarily comprehend these certificates that we're talking about with that ease. That is why we need to build capacity amongst themselves to understand the issues in the common market protocol. And that's why we need them in associations at the border points. That's why we need these resource centers there to give them the confidence that you can actually take your goods through the gazetted crossing points seamlessly and sell on the other side. And we've already said that we even want to link them to bigger markets so that they can even supply and meet some of these orders as a group. I mean, if you're cooperatives. If you're 6, 10, 20 traders,
you can supply a whole truck.
You can supply a whole truck, not a bag, because the cost of each single bag being taken across is much higher.
How about warehousing? Is it?
And yeah, he said the warehousing may not be workable. The warehousing helps some of these people. Mr. Oundo rightly mentioned that there are challenges that are involved. I would also say, for people who live at the borders, you would find that a number of these cross-border traders actually come from various points. They want to bring in their goods. Some of them are actually supplied by farmers coming from elsewhere. You need a place where you're going to...
You can conglomerate.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that you get the volumes that you want over time. Places where someone can actually come and find your goods so that inspection is done. Okay?
Kind of
sorting, grading, all that kind of thing. This helps. So you cannot say that warehousing does not help. It does help. You can travel the world over. International trade uses such facilities. So, and the issue of crossing, yes, now we've had challenges, but these challenges are being addressed. And for instance, passports. A number of these informal cross-border traders, by the way, do not even present passports.
Yes, they are known by the people.
Yes, the officials who are based at the borders,
they know them by name.
They will just see them and say, okay, those women trade here every day, so they know.
They don't need to fill the documents.
They don't need to go and present a passport and that kind of thing. Although where it happens, it's even for the benefit of the person.
For security
reasons. Because every nation wants to know. Even Ugandans wouldn't be comfortable if lots of Congolese were crossing the border without identification. So it's this sovereignty that we're talking about.
Mr. Owen.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to appreciate the callers on what they have been putting across to us. I do want to agree with them that sincerely on the issue of warehouses, like we mentioned, warehouse, we made specifically storage facilities at the border points. And these storage facilities, we want to say, if they are there, they add, because we can now have capacity to have what we have produced, brought at the border, save the trade to add value on it, and we take it. And by so doing, I tell you, once we have added the value, we may not take this item to the neighboring country at the same cost we got it from. And that's why we emphasize. And maybe the caller who didn't mention his name, I'm happy, maybe he's looking at the warehouse in terms of big trading. This is where it impacts on him. I want to agree with him on that point. But where we are trying to talk about value addition and where it involves storage and making a product move from raw to at least a slightly semi-finished good, here we shall really appreciate the services of a storage facility. And I want to agree with my friend Stephen, who mentioned about this protocol, some of them being at the offices and not practical on the ground.
Yes.
It is a practical issue. I want to testify that I personally was on the Uganda border, Mutukula, with the TZ.
Yes.
I tried to cross and I really found difficulties where I was requested to pay some money before I crossed the other side of the border.
Yes.
And I was basically told by the authorities at the Tanzanian side to pay something.
Okay.
And this is something our governments need to address to its citizens, and we have smooth trade.
All right, thank you very much, dear guests. Ms. Christine Nankubuge, Programs Director at the East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women. Yes, thank you for coming to Spectrum tonight. Mr. Godfrey Oundo, Chairman of the Uganda Cross-Border Traders Association, thank you for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
Mr. Stephen Jita, Director, Market and Product Development at the Uganda Export Promotions Board, thank you for coming over tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond to Spectrum. We'll be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English.
You can pay, you can buy, pay your bills. seas